Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. It looks like it's exactly 7 o'clock. Before we get into discussions, what I would like to do is tell you where we are. There have been some changes since we talked. If they're good.
Okay. I'll tell them. They said they weren't going to be adversarial.
Okay.
They were just going to be good. Joe, I think you guys can come in and start talking about the budget. Oh, great.
Sandy and Matt.
And Ed.
Ed.
Oh, Ed.
I can
Forgot about Ed.
I learned that.
That's right. Forgot about Ed.
So there's got to be a math teacher coming through.
There's enough of us. Okay. All right.
Gary. Hi. How are you?
Lineup.
There are more chairs in the selectman's office.
All right, is everybody in? Okay. Let me tell you guys, where's Carol?
Hey, Carol.
She disappeared.
Yes, Jim.
Oh, here's Sandy.
Carol, where are you sitting? I'm sitting. No, I'm sitting there. Where Joe is. Joe, you sit right down there.
Sandy
No.
Yes.
I got it.
Oh, you got one of those?
Is everybody's phones on?
We're ready. Okay. So here's what we did today. We looked at our revenue, our town revenue numbers, local receipts, and we upped our motor vehicle excise tax by $40,000. I also took the $30,000, that $30,120 you gave me, out of your budget, so we'll take care of that some other way. We added $300,000 worth of free cash to the revenue line item on the very top level. Mike also got a call from our insurance provider that our insurance rate increase went down to 8.5% from 10. What else? What else did we do today? Can you think of anything else? Before I tell you where we are, here, hold on.
You put that 13,000 back in the.
Well, yeah,
town
there's
clerk.
$13,000 of the town clerk for the elections in November. We took that out because that's a one-time charge, and we'll pay for that the way we're paying for your $30,120.
Then we took 20,000 out of
Right,
the assessor's
that's right.
budget, but put 15 of that into
Right.
overlay because of
Yeah.
they've been running a deficit in overlay with a big
Because of
increase
veterans.
in veterans exemptions. It seems the desert veterans from Desert Storm, Afghanistan, Iran, Iraq, I mean, not Iran yet.
Hopefully not.
Yeah, they've been applying for veterans exemptions, and that comes out of the overlay account. So we needed to beef that up. So there's a net savings of $5,000 additional from that move.
Yes, Matt. And since we put that money in and we have additional funds from the insurance account, we added back in that second grade teacher. I put that back into your budget. So where we are right now is we have an levy excess of $84,000. And your budget at this particular time is 14,106,029.
14,106,029?
14,106,029.
It's a 2.1% increase.
So,
How much?
and
You're good.
2.1. We already
Oh.
have it.
we-
Oh, I got it.
so where we are is basically we're not finished. You know, I hate to get everybody in here and then tell them that, but we're not finished because we do have $84,000. But Mike is concerned that we're getting some feedback from insurance that our workman's comp may go up. So we're just not sure. And besides, Carol, Mike wants to talk to you about some insurance issues.
Okay.
Okay, so
Well,
You don't-
actually, it's with the unions.
it's with the unions, but he has some proposals maybe
Oh, okay.
that will make a difference in everybody's insurance,
Okay.
both the employees and the town.
Yeah, I had a brief sidebar with Joe.
Oh,
Patella,
okay.
And we'll be meeting.
Oh, okay, good.
Soon
So
as they
because
crunch
of
the
that,
numbers.
because there's some stuff up in the air, we're not closing the budget right now. We want to see where we are. And based on our conversations the other day, Tuesday, I would like, and I will talk to the committee about putting back in that 1.6,
Teachers.
the teachers at the high school, that 90,000.
Yep.
So that would put you at 14.2, I think. Something like
Jim, how much are you using from free cash?
that. 300.
So basically, because we're using money from free cash, this is not a sustainable budget
That's all we are.
going forward.
I mean,
This is
that's-
a one-time.
That's something that everybody has to understand. That when we use money from free cash like that, that money is not available next year. So we will start out next year $300,000 negative before anything else happens.
Right, and should we also plan on doing the three, remember years ago when we did the special infusion of free cash?
We did.
It was a one-time infusion
Yeah.
to be, and it's not to be added to the budget line item,
Yeah.
the starting number line item for next year.
Right.
It doesn't mean your actual starting budget is increased by 300,000, because that's just the one-time infusion.
Yeah.
It's not a sustainable amount of money.
Because we were at, well, I think I told you before we started all this today, we were $281,000 negative with everybody's budget. So that's where we are.
Oh, one other thing though, Jim, to pay the snow and ice deficit.
All right.
We're gonna have to take money out of the stabilization
Well, in fact, we're going to take
fund.
quite a bit of money, not quite a bit, we're going to take money out of the stab fund for several things. One is snow and ice, the other one is any other things that we normally would have paid free cash for, like the 30,000. There's a teacher retiring,
Yes.
we'll have to take that from the stab fund as well.
Just over $1 million.
1.1 million, I think.
And what's the budget, what do you like to keep that at?
5% of
It's
the
below,
operating
it's
budget.
below where it really should be right now.
5% of what?
5% of our operating
Should be.
budget, it should be.
Should be
And
like
the
1.8.
operating
It's not.
budget's 29 million.
Yeah. So
Should be
it should be like
1.5.
1.4 and we're down at 1.1.
Because that affects the bond rating, remember?
It does, if you have any
Yeah, I
bond,
understand.
you know, a large bonds you want to do, it affects the bond rating. I mean, we can always put money back in at some point. And I guess what we've been saying, and I said to Carol the other day, our goal here is to get through this year. Because Mike is talking with, or trying to get in touch with, someone that will help us plan over the next 10 years and look at ways to increase revenue. And we're also going to have to look at expense goals and things like that over the next few years. So the idea is probably going forward next year, looking for an override, but we'll go to the town with a plan that will have a financial analysis of where we think we are, and we will stand a much better chance of getting something.
So when will that budget analysis be? When are you
Wow.
gonna start with that, and when would the townspeople be able to like see?
Well, we
You know,
probably
be
wouldn't
till, you
give
know,
it to the townspeople until we're trying to, you know, defend going for an override next.
The study won't start until after town meeting. It'll be for next budget year.
But we want to
Cycle.
start it right away.
How are we funding it?
We'll have to figure that out.
I don't know. We haven't
You
got
have- you
the
have to get a
proposal. I don't know what it
proposal,
costs.
Yeah. And in fact, the gentleman he called was gonna call Joan.
Yeah.
And
it's
where
the guy
she's
we-
out.
It's the recommendation we made, right?
Right, yes, yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, he's awesome. I mean, he knows
Yeah.
what he's talking about. And actually, the budget analyst I originally gave you the name for, she works for him,
Oh,
basically. So he employs her.
The
So,
woman that's doing the Saturday morning forward-looking, she knew who he
Kim,
was as well
yeah.
and said he was very good.
yeah.
Okay, let me ask the committee where you guys are. You thoughts?
I still haven't found the streetlights.
Oh,
Looked in that.
it's in
sure it's
highway. It's in highway.
Sure
Come
it's
on,
in
is it-
He's
is
looking
it-
for streetlights.
All right.
It's in
I
highway.
looked, it's not there.
Yes, it is.
Is it-
Here, I'll show
is
you
it
where
in
it
this
is.
year, Mike?
Pardon?
Is it in the highway this year?
Yeah.
Give it a short on that, sir. What is the word from the state on budgets coming down? So all we're working with right now is the governors, correct?
Yeah.
We have no, any word on
No,
House and
whatsoever.
Senate?
See, that's
No.
it right there, energy.
They're just
It's
starting their
too low.
Yeah.
committee hearings.
Right, so keep that in mind, that,
I'm sorry.
that all the numbers we have right now
5210
is
is
just the
the-
governor's
is the,
budget. We
No,
don't
I
have the
know.
House and Senate budget.
I know.
It's 53,948.
That could throw a complete wrench in the
Do
whole
you have
thing.
any idea
Although
when
usually-
we might hear
usually
the
the
others
others
are a little better than the governor's though, so let's hope that.
Traffic
Oh, traffic lights too.
Okay.
It's everything.
All right.
Yeah, yeah.
It's in
I just know what happens when we forget that.
They did. They did one year. Yeah.
I've done it
I already
twice.
mentioned it to Jim.
Um,
And Mike's gonna call us.
Okay, I'm
We're about
I'm
You're good.
50,000
Now just-
in,
we're going-
deficit.
How do we do this, Pat?
We're not, actually, we're not gonna vote anything
there
right now.
anything
This is
pending?
where we are.
Yeah.
Do you want me to?
There is.
We wanna see
I
where
don't
Mike
know
is
how much
going
though.
with the insurances, and we'll have to get together
All right.
and vote on it later in
Can I
March.
just confirm, you said that there would be perhaps a change in the insurance for the teachers. Is that a positive change from their perspective? I mean, you mentioned the change, but you didn't say whether it was positive or
The
negative.
rate, as I spoke with our rep today, the rate, instead of going up 8.5, would go up 2%. So there'd be that
Oh, that would be
savings.
huge.
That would be a huge,
That would be
but
huge.
it requires buy-in from the employees.
Yeah.
And you know, there are
So it's
things that they have to buy into.
Yeah, and I don't have the details. for
Yeah.
But it would probably most likely work out to something that would help the teachers, that would be a
Well, it would help
a
all
positive,
employees.
a good thing for them,
It would
all
help all
employees,
employees.
all town employees.
Oh, yeah, well, I mean, if it goes
Okay.
down for the town, it goes down for the employees as
Right,
well.
right, right.
It's 7% of, $2 million.
Right, okay.
I think, I can't speak for the union, and I don't take the insurance, so I should keep my mouth shut, I guess, but I think just the fact that there's an opportunity to talk about it is a very encouraging sign, and, I think people will welcome that.
Right, we will have to look at it, but, let's be clear, going down doesn't necessarily mean a better package.
Right.
Right.
So we
But the
will-
fact that they're talking about it, Joe, is what we've been looking for,
Absolutely.
right?
Well, that's what I mentioned, it's complicated, they give you this, but then you have to pay this.
Right.
Yeah, right, okay.
Mike, do these budget numbers reflect the reductions that other departments have already given back?
Yes.
Okay, are
Everything's
you
in
aware
it.
of that? That we have departments that have given back money, so they're actually getting funded, some are getting funded less than they did last year?
I don't think we know exactly what
Right,
the,
but that's what I'm
that
saying,
looks
there's
like. We
still-
weren't at the Saturday meeting, but
Right.
initially when Mike talked to the department heads, he had basically said that some departments were going to get level funding, but I don't know whether that actually happened. I
It's,
just don't know.
Yeah,
It's
Yeah,
reflected in
it's-
here.
Right.
Yeah, it's-
Yeah, this is the first time that I've
Well,
seen it though, so.
I just wanna make clear for everybody, we have a department that's giving back over 10% of their budget. That's a huge hit for a small department, okay? Imagine if we asked you to give back 10%.
9 years ago, we actually gave back $750,000.
No, I understand that, I just wanna make sure everybody knows that this is,
Yeah.
we're
So
all
we-
in
we
this.
need to- We
yeah.
need to be clear about
No, I know,
it.
we're all in this together though.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
goal, is that we're in this together and we're in a tight spot, but everyone is trying to do the best that they can. So it isn't
Yeah.
just, we're asking the school to reduce, everyone is giving back money too. Okay?
Yeah, no, I think
Yeah, we
everybody
appreciate that.
realizes
We
that.
appreciate
Yeah.
that. We've always worked so well together.
I know.
And that's one thing that I
I
want
just wanna make sure, I don't know if everybody else here understands, because not everybody watches our meetings.
Right,
Because we put
right.
them all to
But
sleep
we
already.
really always have been able to maintain such a great
Yeah.
relationship.
Yeah.
And, it is a stressful time for all of us.
Yeah.
And, you know, the committee just wants to do what's right really for the kids and for the,
Yep.
for the teachers. I mean, it's clear that that's our intention.
Yeah. Oh, no, and that is your job.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, we don't have a money tree on the backyard.
So that, I mean, that's where we are. As I said, we're positive at the moment. We have things to look at, and we have to get this done around the end of March, because we have to. It has to go to legal review, and then it has to be posted.
So I think Joe had asked about perhaps making just a brief statement, and
Yeah.
I think you had agreed. Would this be a good time to do that?
Yeah, because I don't know what we can do going forward unless the committee has some thoughts. I mean, I think we're really not where I thought we'd be. You know, we're not
Thought that you're
finished. You know, the budget isn't done yet.
Right. So Joe, is this a good time?
Yeah, Jim, my name is Joe Patella. I'm the Teachers Union President, have been
Yep.
for 8 years, and I have to tell you, I'm somewhat encouraged about what I'm hearing, because I've been in this district for 23 years, and I want to thank you for, first of all, letting us come down here and speak, but I'm really happy of some of the things that I'm hearing about going forward in regards to where Georgetown's going to be in 3, 5, or 10 years. We appreciate the job that you guys are doing, and we know that it's tough. So we wanted to thank you for letting us come down and speak tonight. You know, collectively we felt that it was very important for all of us to come down and show the committee the faces of teaching in Georgetown, because we are an important part of the community. You know, we understand that you guys deal with, you know, Excel spreadsheets and numbers and budgets. We deal with people. And the fact of the matter is, there are some people that are in this room that will not be with us in September if this budget crisis continues. All right, and we take that very seriously, and I know you do too. So we're looking for solutions with you as well. You know, if you look closely in all the teachers' faces, and I mean really look closely, you're going to see the reflection of hundreds of students that we deal with on a daily basis. Students that we love and students that we cherish. And when you cut a teacher, it doesn't just go with that teacher. The cuts go deep. They cut right into the fiber of a school community. You cut a teacher, class size goes up. It affects all of us. You cut teachers, programs don't run. That affects all of us. And it affects mainly the kids, our students. Now we know the role of your position on the FinCom is to protect the faces of the taxpayers in Georgetown. Well, we feel that the kids, the most vulnerable of our citizens, deserve that protection as well. So we're hopeful that we're able to come up with some solution so that we don't have any cuts, because all of our kids in this town deserve the best teacher that they can get. So I want to leave you with this image with all these people that have come down here and made time to come down here before I hand it off to Mike Murphy, our Vice President. I want you to look at these people, because some of them won't be here next year, and they deserve to be here. I know you have a bunch of numbers in front of you, and I know you know this, but I want to reiterate that we're not numbers, we're people, and it affects us deeply. So we're hopeful that you guys can come up with some solution so that there's no cuts at all. Thank you.
Okay.
Mike?
Hi, Jim. Again, to reiterate what Joe just said, I'm Mike Murphy, and I just want to thank you for having us tonight. This is my 15th year in the district. I'm the vice president of the union. I've had some members, sons and daughters. Wayne, I had Pat, Mary, and Mr. Anderson. I had Kate. My daughter's also in the district. I'm invested. While I don't live in Georgetown, this is a great town, and we are willing to work with you at the union level, and just know that there are 135 people that are willing to make adjustments and make sacrifices for the betterment of the town. I think, you know, as Joe said, from a personal level, I've had people coming up to me and saying, you know, what do you know? Am I going to have a job this year? I had a woman, a hardworking teacher who I respect. She's a single mother of 3, and her eyes are getting glassy, and she's saying, I don't know if I'm going to have a job. I'm going to be cut. And I understand that sometimes this is the price of business. I get it. But the feeling among some people in the town and some people in school is that the model is failing. Okay, so we know that you're working hard. I've kind of done a little research. I've watched some of the town videos, and I know that there's some plans in the work. And you did mention the idea of putting forth a plan to generate revenue. One of the town meetings that I saw, I think it may have been Phil Trapani mentioned that the town tax base is essentially a ratio of 91% is comprised of residential, is made up by residential
Yeah, that's
taxes,
right, that's
and
right.
9% by commercial, by business.
Yes.
Is that something that is considered common among towns in this area?
Yes.
Because it seems to be a very high percentage, 91 to 9.
That's not at all unusual for a town this size. There really isn't a lot of opportunity for economic development, a lot of opportunity for business here. The one thing we do have, and we have, both Gary Fowler and I are on the Economic Development Committee as well, is the interchange at 95 and 133.
Yeah.
I mean, we think that's a gold mine, but we have not, but none of the land out there belongs to us. And trying to get the people that own the land to do something with it has been difficult. But, I mean, that's another thing I would like to do, is to get a hold of somebody that probably understands a lot more about commercial real estate than we do, and try to see what we can do about that interchange, because that clearly is something that I think that would get us some revenue. We do have the marijuana facility out there that will be providing some revenue in a while. So, I mean, some things are happening. I just have to reiterate again, and I understand where you're coming from. This is just a really bad year. I mean, we budget very, very closely. And the real problem we've had this year is we've had almost $750,000 worth of increases in all of our different kinds of insurance. And the biggest one was health insurance. And we had a little over $500,000 in additional revenue. So, and then you add on top of that people getting raises and other needs you have, and that's how we got into that hole. And we have a limited ability to raise revenue and do something about that. So, and then we're trying to do something. Well, we're going to take care of snow. No, we've paid last year's snow. So we're going to take care of. No, it's all.
No, we paid it all together.
We paid it all. It's all.
That's why we paid it all at
Yeah.
once.
Just in case.
Yeah, that's why we paid it. That's right. I'm so glad we did
That's
that.
why we did that.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's kind of where we are. We understand. I've been laid off. It's not a lot of fun, and we're doing the best we can. That's all I can tell you. This is a bad year. This is probably one of the worst years that we've had since I've been here. All I can tell you is we're hoping it's going to get better. That we're going to plan for it to get better.
Jim, just quickly for clarification, it seems everywhere, and I know we're working our way out of the recession, but it seems everywhere except for small towns, and I know Mike reiterated in regards to the residential, you have a stock market that's rising. You have unemployment going down. It seems we're working out of our way out of this recession. How come this particular year is very difficult for Georgetown when in years past it has not been?
Well, I just told you that our insurances went up.
It's been difficult since 2002.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I mean, our insurances were pretty good for a while. In fact, they were level. But the last couple of years, it went up almost 11% last year.
That's what I guess I'm getting at. Is it just the insurance that's
the major driver. The insurances plus raises that people get. I mean, they weren't huge, but they were raises, and it's additional expense with a very limited amount of money that we can raise. As I said, we can raise 2.5% of the total amount of money we raise in property taxes. That's about $400,000, and we have about $165,000 of new growth, and that's it. And we started out in the hole by a couple $100,000 plus raises on top of that. So that's why we're where we are.
Well, I know that Chapter 70 money is very low this year.
The state is
and I know
giving us
Carol, the
terrible.
school committee, is going to ask you guys to sign on with
I
us
think that, yeah. I would certainly
get into
wanna look
Governor
at that.
Baker's ear and
Yep.
get the Chapter 70 money up where it needs to be. We have communities all across the Commonwealth that are signing off on this and getting in his ear. MTA, our mother unit, is really pushing this hard, and we're hopeful that not only the school committee, but the finance committee, the board of selectmen will sign off on this as well.
Let us see it.
Yes, actually, I have it right here, and I've been in touch
Laura,
with,
where is that copy? There's a whole bunch, they're all.
I've been in touch with the
We put it
Suburban
on the, we put
Coalition.
it on the table for you.
And the Suburban Coalition.
Oh, is that what this is?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay, we have it, beautiful.
Yes.
We have it here.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, we
great.
have it right here. I didn't realize that's what that was.
And what the Suburban Coalition is trying to do is to get school committees and finance committees and Board of Selectmen from across the Commonwealth to sign this resolution, which it just says, therefore, be it resolved that the, and then insert name of the local governing board here, calls on Massachusetts legislature and the governor of Massachusetts to fully fund and adopt the recommendations of the Foundation Budget Review Commission in the immediate future. They've identified 2 areas, employee health insurance and special education, where the Massachusetts Foundation budget significantly understates the true cost of educating students in the Commonwealth and has failed to keep pace with rising costs. So I think they really want to just ask the legislature to reassess the Chapter 70 formula, which, as you know, Governor Baker approved a 1.6% increase across the state, but small towns like Georgetown don't fare so well with that formula, and our increase was only 0.66%, which amounts to about $35,000, which, we would like it to be higher.
Our total was about 50.
And
Something like that, I
this
forget.
formula has not been changed since like 1999 or 1998. It has not been reassessed in quite a while. So basically, if any board that approves this, and then once you approve it, you would send it to our legislators, Bruce Tarr and Lenny Mira, and it's just asking for a reevaluation of the Chapter 70 formula, which would benefit the entire town, because that is the largest source of state funding for the town, is the Chapter 70.
And in order for that to work, we need as many boards to sign off on it as we can get.
Yep.
Yes. So the
Okay.
school committee is going to be, we're going to be looking at that tomorrow. Yes.
Okay.
It just, everyone in the room, I'm not sure if you're aware of the fact that Robin, Jim, and I have been involved in the finances of this town since the late 90s. We are keenly aware of the numbers that go into this budget and the services that are provided in this town. And we know it is a real, we have been very fortunate, a lot of people may not think that, we have been very fortunate over time to keep the town running as well as it has been with the finances. And that's something everyone really needs to consider. We are very keenly aware that people are involved. We live in town. There are people who work in this town that live in town. They're our neighbors. We don't take any of this lightly. And it's been tough. It's been tough for 13 years. And it's, this year's tough. It's not a spending problem. We know that. We know very well that every department is not funded where they should be. There is not one department that is funded where it should be. And it hasn't been for over 10 years. So
Longer than that.
longer than that. It's just it's tough. It's a revenue problem because yes, we have 92% revenue tax, residential tax base. As you saw years ago, if you were in town, what did that the schools went for an override for over $1 million, and what did that pass by? It was 11 or 17 votes or something?
No,
No.
that was the
No,
school.
No, I
school
think it
version.
passed by
No,
a
school
hundred and
override.
40. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
the override passed
the successful
significantly.
one. The unsuccessful one did not
Lost
pass by
by
7.
I just couldn't-
In 2007. it
Yeah.
was-
So, I mean,
The
just
successful
another.
one passed maybe 170 votes, I think,
It was still small. It's tight.
relatively speaking.
It's tight, and that's why, and everyone just got their tax bills for the new school. So we're very keenly aware of this, and we're trying to keep everything as whole as possible. So we do understand, and we feel it, and we understand there's people involved. So please don't think that that's not the case. Robin, Jim, and I have a very long history with finances in this town.
Is there any opportunity, through we're talking about Chapter 70 money, ways that you can receive more revenue through the state? Through my education, I was always with the understanding that the state lottery, kicks a certain percentage back into education. How does that work at the town level?
We get lottery money.
Right.
It just comes in and,
Yeah, it comes in
That
from
is a
the
revenue.
state. We get quite a bit of money from the lottery.
and it's also gone down. I think, hasn't it? I think-
Yeah,
oh,
we get $660,000.
Is it based on a formula?
I'm assuming everything's
Believe
based
so,
on a
yeah.
formula, yeah.
But if the lottery proceeds across the state
And
go
it
down,
has,
so does
yeah,
this.
and it shows growth. I mean, we went from 660 last year to 688 this year, so there is some growth.
Right.
It's just not enough.
So, did you petition for that money, or
No,
was
no, it's a formula that the state gives us.
Yeah.
They
Could you
don't really
petition
care
if you
we
have a
petition.
plan? Could you petition?
Pardon?
Could you petition, or if you have a plan and set up like for X amount of funds, if you have some objective to meet in town to fund some project, could you petition?
No, I don't know of any mechanism to do that.
Do you know, is the money awarded to us based on how much people in Georgetown play the lottery, or is it?
No,
Not at all.
no, it isn't
Sure.
based on that.
It's just like when
Okay.
we get our grants,
Yeah.
it's based on a lot of factors.
I think it's
but-
based on
Okay.
income,
It's
on average
yeah.
income, and a whole
Okay.
lot of
They
things
have
like
a
that.
formula.
I
I didn't know.
It's
I
a
just-
fairly complicated formula. I don't know what it is.
The state revenue, they have a cherry sheet. Cherry sheet is the amount of money they give you and the amount of money they take
Take
back.
away, right.
Okay, it isn't just so, and we have no control over that formula,
Mhm.
none.
You can see on the back page of this, it tells you, there's places where it shows you the money they take away from us.
Yeah.
State offset? No, where do you look? Is that what you're talking about, Jim? State
Yeah,
offset?
like school choice sending, right?
Yeah.
That's one. 191,000. And charter school is 20. And I'm trying to find out. There's see that's,
Oh, there it is.
there's, state charges, $105,000. I mean, they gave us 60. And they took away 105. And that's, we pay for the MBTA, and probably the Haverhill, Merrimack Valley transportation. There's a lot of things like that in there.
Mosquito control.
What is it?
Mosquito control.
Mosquito control.
Mike, one of the things that's been a little volatile in the past has been vocational schools because of the timing of when they, I know Essex Tech is almost 17,000 a student based on the information I read recently, and then I think Whittier's about that same amount.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, I know Essex Tech, I asked the superintendent if he could do an estimate, and he said eight students, he said he'd figure on 8. Do we know the number from Whittier? Because that obviously, there's some volatility to that, because if you end up with 5 or 6 more kids that go, then.
Isn't that the school assessment line on the top?
It is.
Yeah, that's in the budget.
I know, but
No,
it's always a question of the accuracy of the number, just
Right.
because of the
And-
timing of the acceptance.
And the problem is, with Essex, we don't get a bill until October. We don't know what it's gonna be until October.
Right, but that's why I reached out to the superintendent,
Yes.
because I know that was a
Mhm.
pickle last year for you, so I tried to
Yep.
be proactive on that.
And Essex, and Whittier will probably have a number for us within the next 2 weeks.
Okay.
They're proactive. Essex is reactive.
But I think that I'll go back and look at the email, but I think he said estimate 8.
Well, that's 20,000 a student,
Well, yeah, I think it was 16, because I looked at that, because
plus
I thought it was 20.
transportation.
Oh, plus transportation, so that might be the
It's
difference.
at least 20.
Because I saw the tuition was 16 and change.
Is Whittier the same?
They're less expensive.
Less
They're
Oh.
17 all in.
Transportation included, yeah.
And how many students go to Whittier? Do you know? How many students go to Whittier, Kelly? Because we have 700,000 in that line. I don't know.
Give me a minute, I can find that for you. And
But just for a bit of history, we tried, the towns around here tried challenging, it was about 3-4 years ago. We tried challenging, and every town around here voted down the Whittier.
Not all of them is the problem.
Right, but then what happens is that if everybody votes it down, then the tech schools can actually go back to the state, for the state to do an assessment, so you roll the dice, the state can come back higher. So it really isn't a good gamble to take to go against it. because you can just screw yourself.
Right.
Do you remember that? That was like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, yeah.
Selectmen being asked to put something on the warrant for Whittier. Mike may know more about it, for a stabilization fund at Whittier. And I do hope we find out more about that. I mean, will that affect our budget at all, or do you know if that's supposed to be within their budget?
I don't know.
As far as I know, Gary, it'll be within their budget, but they have to ask permission. They have to get every town's permission to set up the stabilization fund.
How are they planning on funding it?
Uh,
By assessing us more?
Yeah, well, that's the
only
way they
well,
can,
well,
yeah.
That's exactly how.
So that could have an effect, that
Yeah.
we need to ask our rep to come to the selectmen's meeting, you know, and.
Yes,
see if
and
we
find
better
out about
explain that.
But that wouldn't affect this year, right?
I don't believe so.
Yeah, because they'd have to.
Because they have to get permission, and then they'd start it for next year.
The answer to the question is 38 students in FY16. So I didn't know, Whittier. And there were five in FY16. I think the superintendent said that there were applicants, and he told me that there were going to be 3 or 4 students. So that does make sense.
Well, one quick point. Back to you mentioned some of the lottery money, and you mentioned that it was a formula. If we were to find a local town that petitioned for monies beyond that formula, would the financial committee be willing to adopt a similar plan to sweeten the pot for a potential commercial investor?
I'm confused. What are you asking?
What, I don't get the commercial investment part of that.
Listen carefully, everybody. You established that there is a formula in which you are given money for the state lottery, correct?
Yes.
That's you said.
We don't establish the formula. The state
Right, I didn't say that you said it.
Yeah.
I said that you
Yeah.
receive, so
Yeah.
it's a
Right,
set.
right.
It's
There is
set
a
amount of
formula
money.
yes, that they use.
I may be under the impression that there are other towns that have petitioned for more money beyond that formula. So what I'm saying to you is, if I can find that information to say that it's an option for this town, would you be willing to consider that option to sweeten the pot for a potential financial investor at the commercial level? So if there was a project for 95, a project for a big box store, something like that, and the state is willing to kick in money via lottery money, is that something that this financial committee would be willing to do?
I don't know what the, but yeah, I would be willing to listen to that, to consider it, yes. Yeah. I mean, but I'm the mechanism of that is.
We already get, we can, what's the?
We're in touch with the state economic development group, and
if
you know, we deal with them.
They have, will put
Yeah,
money
and they
up.
do have grants
We
and
come up
things
with
like
somebody
that.
that wants to do something out there on 95,
Right.
we're
Yeah.
on that list with the state. to
And
get
in fact,
money.
that's how we would get someone to help us market that, somehow market that. Interchange would be to get a grant from the state, and then get something, yeah. That's,
If I could do research and find an example that can set a precedent
Yes.
and allow the option for the town, I'd be more than happy to do that.
sure, yeah, go ahead,
All right. We'll look at anything.
yeah,
Thank you, Wayne.
All right, we know you guys have a lot of work to do, and we appreciate your time.
okay,
thank
well,
you.
thanks for coming.
Thank you.
And I think it's a good idea for you folks to see, you know, just what the finances are.
Oh, well,
Thank you.
we'll have to look at it.
Take it easy. Hey, how you doing?
See you, sir.
Take care, thanks for the time.
This show
The what?
School, God, these teachers
Yeah,
are
yeah,
better than my kids.
that's it. What's that? Oh, is that right? It sounded, 38 times 17 is what?
646.
Ooh, and then 160 something.
So it's 806.
Oh, so this is off, potentially?
He's
I could
thinking
be
that's
wrong
low.
if those numbers are right. If it's 38 times 17, that's 646,000, and you get another.
Well, we don't know how
No.
many are seniors that are going
Oh.
away,
I just did.
and we don't know how many freshmen are coming in.
She just said that she thought 38 kids were going.
Carol,
Maybe
I'm
now.
sorry.
back to Whittier.
Oh. This is what you need to know. You all, in your budget binder,
Yeah, are they-
if you check tab P, you'll notice that there's a report, so there's some graphs, but then you'll notice there's a report that's called the School Choice, it's the Sims report from October 1, and what we do is we look at several years, we look at the students that choice out, what grades they're in, where they go, and we look at the choice in, and we look at the private schools, we look at vocational schools, and we look at homeschools, so you might find that interesting.
The question was, this number 38, is that this year or projected?
It's it says FY 16, so it's the
Oh.
report I gave this year.
So that's all included, like
All the
grades.
grades.
All
the
grades.
Whittier. So next year, there's obviously some are graduating.
Right,
And you
that's
don't know
right.
that.
That's right.
You don't know who's graduating in a freshman.
Line.
Right, well, and some kids come back, some kids come back. What Laura does is she'll send these reports out, and then the districts send them back to her, and then we compile this report. Usually it gets this to the committee in the fall, after October 1.
I mean, it sounds like, that's a potential problem. So in this day and age where we don't have any fluff.
Well, it's not required, I think it's the
Yeah.
agreement.
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry.
Wow.
there's a bunch that don't graduate, and a bunch that don't stay.
Yeah.
No.
That's something that was,
You gotta go.
Mike, this is the status of the marijuana.
Okay.
All right, where are we? Are you guys okay with where we are? If not,
Yeah.
yell. Huh?
It's
Still at 100.
For when we think
Yeah,
who's
Mike
gonna be
thought so,
negotiating their extra money.
based on what we're looking at.
So Jim,
That's selectmen's
okay,
gonna
we
negotiate
just can't have a question.
I just, and I asked Mike Farrell, and he gave me a good explanation, but I guess I'm still looking for a little bit more on the
Guys,
debt.
please.
I'd like to understand a little bit better the principal of the debt service. It's going up quite a bit. It's going up 18.7%. So that's really a driver of our budget here.
You know what that is?
What is that? No, I don't.
Probably
Well,
the high school.
High school in Pembroke.
okay.
That's you.
But
That's
okay.
That's your fault.
But all right,
Now how
but
do
we
you
did.
feel?
But we voted. You know, we voted at the ballot.
I know, but that's just a number, Pam. It has to go up because
We have
we
to
have
pay
to
the
pay the
bill.
bond.
Right.
So that really isn't money. This money goes in from
But like,
the taxpayers, and money goes right back out again. It has no bearing on the amount of money that we have to deal with.
It's the mortgage.
It's the mortgage.
okay,
It's the mortgage on your
I
building.
see. It's just it's taking such a big chunk.
I know.
out, but I mean, we
That's-
voted
it's-
money to cover that. So
That's it.
Yeah,
okay,
That's it.
I'm not a finance person.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
sorry.
Well, that's it. I mean,
It's the mortgage.
it's a wash.
Okay,
You
well,
shouldn't think about that
And
stuff
Mike,
at all.
was
I mean,
that,
because it's
if
gone
I'm remembering at the department head meeting, didn't you also explain that the buildings have been underinsured for years, and now they are requiring, since they're new buildings that they carry a certain amount of insurance as well?
Yeah, that's
Yeah, so
why
that's
the
part of
property
it.
and liability insurance
That's part of
increased
it, too.
$50,000.
Yeah. So it's the
Okay.
insurances
But
as
that's
well
not
as
that
the
line
debt.
item, that's debt.
That's
No,
the debt.
it's not
No, that's
in
not
debt.
debt, but.
No,
Right.
Pam, to maybe give you a better idea, if you go to the revenue detail, there's a section there called debt exclusion. If you notice,
Where are you, Mike? I'm sorry. What page?
it's the second page.
Page 2?
Okay.
It's
yeah,
after
at the
the
top.
summary,
Okay. Yes.
revenue
Yes.
detail.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
You can see the debt exclusion back in 2014 was 431,000. Now
Right.
it's 2.4 million.
Yeah,
Right.
that's a
Now,
huge jump.
that is added to our levy limit, but it still increases the tax rate. We get that amount
Right, I-
excluded.
That means as soon
Right,
as the bond
I
is
would
paid off,
expect it
we
to
can't
increase the
collect that
tax
money
rate.
anymore.
That's what I would expect.
What's that?
Yes, I would certainly expect that.
Yeah, so then we have to pay it out, that's why it's in,
Right.
because then we have to pay it out.
Okay.
It really has no bearing on
Okay, it's just such a
the
large,
average
right,
daily
There
budget.
is.
portion
It catches your eye.
of the increase, yeah, it just catches my eye.
The good thing is, see that school renovation bond is up in 18.
Yeah.
That's from
The high school.
the high school
Oh,
in the
first one,
90s.
in the 90s.
1998.
Yeah, that's
So
the
that's up in
1996
18.
Nobody wants to change earlier.
renovation, right?
Now it's time to end.
Right, and that's what we're hoping, is that one goes down off of
Help yourself.
the debt exclusion, is to now put in for the Elm Street project, that we're gonna have to go for debt exclusion, because there's no grants available. There's nothing. I mean, it's only the really poor cities that get money now for grants. There's just nothing there anymore. So we're trying to hopefully not implicate the,
How much is the Elm Street project slated to cost? I've heard so many different amounts.
1.8 million is what
Wow.
we've been authorized to borrow.
right.
And that was a 3 or 4-year-old estimate. We're just coming into final design. They're going, we'll have a better, fresher number, but then again, we won't know until we go out to bid.
Right.
Right.
And we were hoping to go out to bid this spring, but they haven't received all the permitting yet, so it may be
Holding
delayed.
it up.
Who's holding the permit?
Well, no one's holding it up.
Okay, it isn't, it's just,
The design just missed the March meeting, and now they're going to the April meeting.
So Mike, I know with the building project, we've been talking a lot at the building committee about sending money back to the town.
Right.
Money that's not used. What happens to that money?
It isn't money.
Okay, is that the, you don't bond as much?
That's right.
Correct.
This is
Okay.
You just don't take
authorization
it.
to bond.
That's right.
Okay, so I understood that, but the contingency money that was already in the, that's already money that's been borrowed, isn't it? I'm just wondering what happens when it goes back to the town. Does it go into like the
No,
general
no,
fund?
it doesn't, there isn't any money.
we never borrowed money.
We
Oh.
never borrowed for it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, so
I'm
contingency
gonna-
money still is like monopoly money?
Yeah,
Not there?
yeah, sort of, yeah.
Okay, so it's only when we actually need to draw on it to pay something.
That's right,
Right,
that you
okay.
spend it.
Right, so
that's
we have
right.
the authorization, the ability to grab that
That
money.
much money.
But we haven't, we don't need it.
But we don't need it, so we're not gonna get it.
That means
And if-
that the taxpayers
Does
won't
that-
have to
does
pay
that-
that extra money.
And if we did
Back
get
to
it,
Anna's point, the
Does-
bond
does that
loan isn't
affect-
gonna be that much, it'll be that much smaller.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so that affects this in some way.
Yeah.
Well,
We haven't borrowed the
we haven't
money.
borrowed it. If we
Have
were
you-
to.
Have you plugged it in as if you have?
no,
No,
no.
So if
So
we did
anyway-
borrow it,
so
the debt
it's-
exclusion would go up.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
debt,
That's right.
all the debt would go up.
Yeah,
Right.
Not
I'm just,
part of the
I just wasn't
principal
sure
now,
what you
but it
put
would
in
be
there.
if we used it.
That's right, that's right.
Which
And
we
do
don't
we
wanna
know
do.
that,
Yeah.
what
Right.
that amount is?
Right.
That at town meeting, they authorized it?
Well, the
You know, a
underbid
certain
for
amount?
one of the projects
It's
is
1.6 and the other
million.
one's a little under 500.
Right.
So it's like $2 million, give or take a penny.
Right, so that's quite an amount, a good amount of money that I would hope we would let that information out to the townspeople to
Oh,
know that.
yeah, oh, don't worry.
That
Yeah,
you came
we
in
didn't-
under budget.
That's
and
on the
on
budget
time.
on time, oh,
You know,
absolutely.
That's kudos to the school building committee,
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely,
Yeah, everybody's worked really hard on that.
right,
but it's monopoly money. It's not real.
right.
So what's represented here is exactly what you know.
Oh, yeah, that's what we have to pay.
I
In
get,
fact,
I
they-
get the debt schedule from our financial advisor, they tell us, and the treasurer.
Okay, I think now's the time to maybe put a stick in the spokes. So, I just wanna say
Did you bring
that.
any candy to at least sweeten up the pot?
Mine's
Ryan?
got the jelly
Why
beans.
did you guys break?
I should have brought a bottle of wine.
Or perhaps something stronger. Depending on where you're going, Barbie.
So, you know, as you can see in your budget binder, the letter from the superintendent describing the actual impact that the budget, the 2.03 budget.
We don't go by
But-
percentages.
Okay, I know, and I don't
I
think
like
that either.
percentages.
But let's just, so there is a list of cuts
Right.
that are happening. And we mentioned a few of them this evening. And I just want to say that as far as the school committee is concerned, those cuts, every single one of them is so devastating.
I understand that, but we are all, understand
I know.
also that we are starting out next year $300,000 in the hole.
Yeah.
Right.
And the more you finance those things, the further in the hole you go.
Right. Well, I just want
It's
to
not
say,
pleasant,
we have
but-
tried our best as well, though. Like last year, we had a 1.66% increase. We had a successful negotiations with the teachers union that I was part of that, and I felt
Right.
that it was a great partnership with them. It was it was definitely difficult, but I think we did a good job in explaining to the union the situation that the town was in. It wasn't that we didn't want to give them more,
Right.
because personally, I think they deserved more. People out there may disagree with me. Look at the prices, look at the wages of other teachers
Yeah, we
in
have
the
that in
area.
there, too.
They fall short.
Right.
And the teachers that we have are phenomenal. They really are. And to me, it's just, that's how you show your gratitude, is through money.
But keep this in mind, Barbie.
Yeah.
the wages across the board, this all town, is not there.
Right, absolutely.
We're closed. Town hall is closed 1 day a week,
Right.
so we can't even open 5 days a week. We can't open any evenings.
But yet there's still, it's still a 40-hour week, though.
Not for everybody. No.
Okay, well,
Town,
clarify that for me.
town clerk's
Robin,
office
if you
is.
clarify that for me then, because I wasn't
Some of them
aware
work
of
32, some of them work 20,
Some of them
very
work
few
19.
work 40.
Okay, so,
40.
Yeah, very few
Yeah,
work 40
town clerk
hours.
they don't work full time anymore. They haven't for years.
okay, so what is that saving in the budget?
Well, it was saying we did that, what, about 10 years ago? We
Yeah,
had to-
I have no idea what
It was saving
would
of
cost to
wages.
start up again.
It was
We've
saving
never
of
even
wages.
looked at it.
We've never been able to reinstate anything since we made the cuts. And a lot of these cuts came back on 2002. And keep in mind, back in 2002, and Jim and I are very well aware of this, is that with the state monies that came in, okay, we did our budget based on what they told us. Come October, November, they said, yeah, we're not giving you all that money. So what they tell us in a budget, they can still come back and say, we're not going to give it to you. And then cut what they're going to give us even more. So
But that can happen to us too, because we think of one number and then
That's-
all of a
that's
sudden
what I'm
it's
saying. So
different.
this
So
is-
yeah,
right, so this is-
I totally understand that.
Right, and it's just,
Right.
it's, when we start a budget out, you have the 2.5% increase, you have the new growth, okay? So now you have your total revenue. You have to take right off the top of that number, all your fixed costs, which
Right.
is insurance, debt exclusion, and everything. That 2.5% increase plus new growth comes out to be, I think we figured out 1 year, less than 1%, a lot of times.
Yeah,
It's not, we don't have a 2.5% increase in revenue every year. It actually is less. So to start with, yes, the increases in everyone, and the non-union people and everyone 1.5%. If we actually have a bottom line increase every year of 1% or less, and the raises are 1.5% to 2%, you are already starting at a deficit in an unsustainable budget.
Because you need more revenue.
Because you need more
We
revenue,
need
and
more
that's,
revenue.
and that's
That's
where we
exactly
start with.
right.
We never start with enough money to fund.
Yeah.
It happens every
We
year.
believe that
It
we
is a
need
problem.
more revenue.
It is a problem. It's definitely a problem. It's not a spending problem. It's a revenue problem in this town.
Yeah.
But when you have a bedroom community, very conservative,
It's just.
Right, but
we-
you
we
know
are
that
gonna do-
when you look for a house though, what's the first thing you
That's
think
true.
of? Is the
That's
school.
true.
Right.
How is the schools? My concern as a taxpayer, my kids are,
Yeah.
nearing the end of their school career. I'm thinking, will I stay here? Will I be able to afford to stay here? Will I enjoy staying here? And that's my thought process of people thinking about moving in. Because if the schools do start to disintegrate, then that's what happens to our community.
and we are painfully aware of that.
Yeah, I know, and we're talking, I guess, again, I have to get back to that. We're talking about this year. I mean, we are planning to go ahead with more revenue. It's
I just
not
don't,
this year.
with all due respect, I just don't know what you're seeing for next year. Like you're saying this, we gotta get through this year. I'm petrified of next year.
So we're.
But I'm talking about
Well,
for
that's what I mean,
17.
so,
I'm talking about
Fiscal
the
18.
year that we're doing the budget for.
Right.
We have to get through this year. After that year,
That's why we gotta get a long-range plan.
we're gonna have a long-range plan
And
for
your,
revenue
when
and
is the
expenses.
marijuana stuff kicking in? Is that
2018,
Is that
isn't it?
oh, is that
Uh,
FY 18? Is it
I don't know,
FY18?
Mike has
still in
had
the
some
planning board.
conversations with them.
it's still in the
He said the
planning
hearing,
board.
just last hearing closed.
They, with state approvals, they may be able to start selling sometime late fall.
This year?
Yes.
17?
Yes.
How
Nice.
much-
Oh,
how
this
much
year,
is that every year? How much
16,
we
in
get?
fiscal 17, right?
We
Fiscal
haven't-
17, wow.
Very.
Oh, late fall of fiscal
Yeah, so
17.
fiscal 18 would be,
Fiscal 18 is when you
When
might
you would
see
reap
some
the
money
benefits.
from them, yes.
Okay.
Well,
that-
we would, as soon as they start having revenue, we will start having revenue.
Right.
We can't budget it
Right,
because
we don't know
Yeah,
what
we
it
will
don't
doesn't
be.
exist yet.
right.
And will that have to
That's
go into
what we
free
need,
cash?
is more revenue. And
Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well,
So
the
we-
proposal
we-
you had,
so that'll end up being
when is
for the
that gonna go
following
to
for
the
free
state
Yes.
about asking for changing of the formulas to?
Like
As
Well,
soon as
yeah.
we sign them, we sign them.
They go off.
They go
I'd be
off.
surprised if they changed the formula this
I
year.
mean,
Yeah,
I
and
would-
then- and then
I
the-
would too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the-
I'd
the
be-
But
coalition
again, planning for
itself
the future.
is.
Yeah, I mean, we have to
Yeah.
do that across the board on everything. It's,
That's
you
Yeah.
know, every form of revenue we can, but then at the same point, we can't be spending what we don't have. And, you know, that's where we're getting in trouble today. So future is gotta be revenue from every source we can get our hands on.
Absolutely.
And then making sure we spend within our means.
And keep in mind, we have a volunteer fire department still. If we
And
had
that's-
if we had a fire department paid employees,
That's actually starting to
yeah,
be a problem.
yeah,
You know,
and
it is, it's
that's a
changing.
huge, that's a
I mean,
huge expense.
We are going to do what we can, that's all we can promise you. We're gonna do what we can.
Can you educate me a little bit on the stabilization account?
There's 1.1 million in there. It takes a 2/3 vote to get it out. We think putting it towards the budget is not a good idea because the budget would require a 2/3 vote. I know you think you can overcome that, but it's dicey, and you may not. And the second thing is, if you do that, you're digging the hole even deeper.
And then that debt number goes up because now we lose our bonding rating, so we don't
Right.
get to borrow at such a good price.
Right.
It's a ripple effect.
Yeah.
Everything you do has a ripple
Yeah.
effect somewhere.
And that's true at the town level, but it's also true in the schools, because what we see is we say people, so the school choice, which hits the town budget, and that goes
Yeah.
up, right, because people get discouraged if we have more people go to private schools. And so that doesn't hurt us in the same way, but it does in terms of the enrollment, because the formula is all based on enrollment. Enrollment in the community's wealth, basically, is how you see your chapter
It's gonna be an
70.
ugly year. I mean,
It's also
there's just
showing that
no
our
way
schools
around
aren't good
it.
enough, so a lot of people do go out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the school choice concerns me too, because
does.
last year we weren't able to fill, you know, we were down 2 slots. So my concern is, you know, we put in the budget, okay, we're gonna get 10 kids,
Yeah,
but
we
we don't
base
know
the
if we're
budget
gonna
on
get,
10 kids.
we don't know if we're
Right.
gonna get 10 kids.
I
I mean,
kids.
the fact of the matter is that it's still a good school. And
Yes, it is.
so,
We will
I mean,
agree.
you are gonna get kids.
To Bobby's
And
point,
we're gonna just get by this year, and I think we'll be able to get more revenue in 18.
to Bobby's point, whether you come to Georgetown for the schools and you're gonna stay here, the schools have always been very good.
Yeah.
And if you're not sure whether you want to stay here after your kids get out of the school, just start looking around, and you'll realize we aren't that bad off. And every other community is having the same problems with their tax dollars and their money and their schools in the area. And short of a trailer in Florida, this is probably the best place you're going to be.
And that's true, because a year ago, Tim and I, we decided with the new schools going in and everything in Elm Street, we said we were gonna downsize. So we started looking a year ago.
You're still here.
You're still here.
I'm still here. And we cannot find anything comparable. I mean, I wanted to get into a small house and downsize, but I mean, that's why we started looking. We were gonna do it for a couple more years, but to Wayne's point, it was like, holy crap.
And the other
Not
thing
looking so bad.
The other thing to look at, a house doesn't stay on the market that long in Georgetown.
Yeah.
If it's a decent home, it's gone.
Yeah.
In a short period of time.
It is a
But
wonderful
there-
community, I
It
mean,
is.
right now, and I definitely do see the schools as the cornerstone
Oh,
of
yes.
the quality of the community. But one thing special here is we really the voters, we care about every generation. I mean, we care about every citizen in town. And I understand that that's, you know, your task, that you need to find, you need to be able to allocate all the resources we have to take care of everyone, including the schools. I mean, you know, the children, they can't vote for themselves, so we're here. That is our task, to advocate for them. But you know, as long as if we can move forward in a positive way about the revenue, then Georgetown will continue to be the special, wonderful place that it is for
That's
everyone.
the plan, to do something.
Yeah, I
But
remember-
it's gonna take, you know, really excellent planning and people.
Well, I think a few years ago, Robin and Jim and I were on the, I remember
It'll
years
take a
ago on the
lot.
3rd floor, we had another member who was concerned about the schools, and we had to discuss and say, you know, one of our tasks is for the whole town. And one of the challenges is with you folks and people who have children in the town, school is 24/7 for you. Okay, and as I use this example quite a lot, if you're not dying, needing to register to vote or register a dog, you're not going to the town clerk's office. It doesn't mean you don't need it. If you don't have a septic problem, or you don't have a restaurant, you don't need something from the health department, you're not going to the health department. If you're not putting on an addition or something like that, you're not going to building and planning. So you have no concept, but it doesn't mean that those departments can't exist. They all still have to exist. And they are existing right now on such a minimal level. I mean, they are down to bare bones. And there isn't, and we've looked in the years past, and there is no place to cut.
Well, that's why we're in such a bad shape, because we budget so
That's what we say
tight.
at the schools too. There's no place to cut.
That's
Yeah,
right.
but we
You know,
can't- we
it's
can't-
such
no,
a bare bone.
The only
Same thing.
place to cut that is not legally required, and Council on Aging.
Yeah, but
Do you wanna
they
cut
have- But they have nothing.
That's what I'm saying. But everything else is legally required. So we can't get rid of legally required
But
departments.
there are more consequences to cutting the school budget and the teachers than there are any.
But, you know, these other departments are legally required,
Right.
so we can't cut them. So the only place left to cut is that. Oh, and the library. Those are the two places you want to find money. Huh?
No, we want to increase revenue.
Oh, Parks and Rec, and Rec.
No, we want to increase
Yeah.
revenue.
No, that's what we need to do.
Yeah,
So
I don't
that's-
think anybody wants to see any, that's one thing I
Yeah.
think everybody's tried to do, is to not pit one against the other. I mean,
Yeah,
the success of the
that's-
town is
yeah.
if everybody's,
We don't wanna
if
do that.
everybody's
No, that's not in
successful.
the spirit
And
of
that's
the
and
town.
that's and right,
Not
and
the
that's
spirit
where
of
we
strong
are now.
community.
That's why it's
But
so
that
tight.
was the spirit years ago of, I think, the town and schools, was
Yeah.
the them versus us, and I think we've all worked very hard to not have that be
Absolutely.
the case. That's why, you know, like I said when I first came here, I probably, you know, because remember I came in the year there was the failed override by 17 votes. And I used to say, if I had a dime for every time somebody told me, oh my God, the sky is falling, the schools can't open, it's gonna be awful, I could have built the biggest house in Georgetown. That's how often I heard it. Well, we reorganized and redirected money in the budget, and then we were lucky a few years later, because obviously things were tight, we ended up, and if you look in your budget book in the section under T, you'll see there's a series of these graphs that show the communities we're compared to. But what it does is it shows the red bar, which is state aid. So Georgetown is actually, Harriet Stanley used to accost me and say, I'm tired of people in town telling me state has not been fair to Georgetown. Because you can see that state aid has sort of steadily, you know, gone up. And if you look at the communities we're compared to, they have nothing for state aid. I mean, really,
Right,
it's very
yeah.
different. Then you look at Georgetown's contribution, and the dotted line tells you what the minimum contribution is, and this goes back all the way to '93. And then you can see what happened is Georgetown's always been sort of tight with to the line of what's required, right? But you see where it bumps into the bar. That's when the foundation budget was a problem. Remember, and they came in with a stimulus, and we said it's not a gift
Right.
because it goes away.
Yeah.
And then there's the override, and you can see that,
Mhm.
you know, we've been able to stay, you know, above the limit. Now, of course, if you look at other towns that are compared to us, they're higher above the limit than we are, relying less on state aid. But there's a lot of circumstances that go with that. But honestly, several years ago, when I first came, I could have gone down $1.3 million before I touched a program and a teacher. That's how the budget was set up before I came.
Yep.
So you know, if that was possible, kudos, but, you know, it's been tight every year, right? And now, the only thing, as you see, we found the first 4 things that we could take out of the budget, but after that, it starts in on the people, because now, there's no, just like you're saying, in the town budget, there's nothing there, there's no cushion. It is people. So, and then, of course, there's the, you know, then you have unemployment costs that you don't intend on, and, I mean, there's just, like you said, everything, you know, hits everything else, there's a consequence to everything, and it just makes things go worse instead of better. So, I think we're all excited that there's a plan in the town to go forward, and I hope that's the case. So, I just wanna make sure I understand, Jim, just the timing, you know, so I see that you told us that you put the second grade teacher back in the budget. So I guess I would just say up front, we were so terrified that we were gonna have a level services budget, which would have meant from the budget that we initially put together here, we would have had to cut another $275,000.
Level service.
Level funded. So I have to say, we're like so thrilled that we're not in a situation where we have to go down another $275,000. I think I'm hearing that that's off the table. Okay. So I heard that there was, put the second grade teacher back in, which was I think $53,000. Yep. And then I thought I heard you say, I know the budget's not closed, but that you were going to talk to the group.
I would recommend that to the committee if the money's available, yes.
And where would that be, the leftover free cash money?
The 90,000.
For the teachers at the middle high school.
Because that was your second choice.
That was our third choice, yeah.
Yes.
You're talking about the overage we have right now? The 84?
Yeah.
That's what he's talking
Right.
about.
And however it shakes. I mean, it seems to me that it was in 2 pieces. So that if we can't do the whole 90, possibly we could do one, which is the one was 45 and one was 35.
Yeah.
Like this one was one was one grade and one was another.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it, you're right,
Yeah.
45 and 35.
You remember from yesterday.
So anyway, you know,
Yeah, 45,
we still
35.
have a couple weeks to try to.
And then
mush
we
this all
also are gonna take out of our budget the one-time expenses.
Right, so what does
Yeah.
that
That was
mean,
the
Jim?
30,000.
It was 30,120.
But
It's your budget. What I have for a budget for you right now is 14,106,029.
Right.
So that has the 30,120 out and the
Okay, so you took
second
that.
grade teacher back in. Basically, that's Carol's 2.03 with the 30 out and 53 in.
So it's a net gain of about 30.
So it's
is
a net
what-
gain of
yeah.
30.
Yeah.
Give or take a penny, yes.
Is there anything with GEF funding for this year that you can actually, because I know with GEF funding, you know, it does a lot of nice things. Is there anything that you can use GEF funding to fund something in your budget this year to give you a little bit more?
Well,
You know, to help
it's
cover some of that?
It's math, science, and technology for GEF. Last year, GEF's gala was very scantily attended. Like, they made $8,000. Usually, they make close to 40. They're still planning to do their mini grant program, but that's how they do it. They don't really give us like big chunks. They'll give us smaller chunks. The problem is, as Jim and I talked about when we chatted, is the only thing we could find in our budget that was a one-time expense, that's something like a GEF expense, was the $11,000 in technology infrastructure at the middle high school for wireless. That's just a one-time, and then we have one teacher who's retiring this year, and so there's the sick leave buyback in that incentive. So, but otherwise, remember years ago, we kind of went down this rabbit hole, and I cut $300,000 out of the budget, but we started cutting things like supplies, like, okay, we have to buy the textbooks, or we have to buy this, and the problem is, just like you're talking about with free cash, we ended up digging ourselves a hole, because the next year, our base budget was $300,000 less, but those were things we needed.
Yeah.
So when Jim asked me, could I go in and take a look for one-time expenses, again, it's people, and that's kind of what it is. We spend, the little graph that's in here on the pie chart, you can see we spend like next to nothing on supplies, right?
Like I said, I mean, that's where
Yeah,
we
but
are.
that's what we're doing.
We're looking for 1,000,
Here and there, I
5,000, we're
know.
looking for
Yeah,
any
well,
pot of
I
money.
mean, GEF and PTA tend to fund enrichment kind of things as opposed to the core.
Right.
Yeah.
That's their
I know
which
that's
are, but they have, I mean, they will help us if there's anything that we need, but if they, like, we had a mom the other day who's very generous, her and her husband, and they work in a business where they're matching grants. And she came in and she said, I'm ready to write you a check. She said, I wanna give the money to save the librarian, the library assistant at the Pembroke. And we said, geez, that's so nice of you, but you can't. Because if you remember back again in 2007 when I came, Scott Jones did the Save the Teachers, remember that? And we were so grateful that he took the time to do that. But we raised about $18,000, but it's a one-time thing, right?
Yeah.
So
You're
when
back in the soup again.
So we
Yeah.
brought one of the teachers back, and we did offset that first year, that $18,000 of the salary, but the following year we owned that salary. So, you know, it was wonderful for the parent to offer, but we said, yeah, we just can't. So she is gonna help us on, like, some of those projects you and I talked about for Camp Dennison and some of our STEM projects that we're doing as part of our curriculum, because we have no money. The other thing that you know, and again, you don't have all time to read this book, but one of the things that we did put in here was a section in the budget overview after the basic budget assumptions. We talked about what do we need that's not even in this budget? Like we didn't include it, but it is things that we need. For example, I know this is close to Wayne's heart, but we're all a little concerned about the fact that we know we need one more maintenance person at Pembroke. We know that. We've been talking about that for years,
We
remember?
all know that.
Remember? We're talking about that for years.
Yeah.
It's not in the budget.
Yeah.
It's not. And, you know, so we will figure out how to redirect, but it won't be what we need it to be. And that's concerning to us.
That's concerning to us.
I know, but I didn't know, I mean, what
Yeah.
else could we do? Because if we put
To
the 50...
to go back, that's concerning to us to start to go back to where we were again.
Right, well, we
Just-
don't want to do
We
that.
don't wanna do that.
And so at one point we talked about doing some shared maintenance, and we talked about adding over time, adding 2 people, one for custodian and one for maintenance. And then we said we would do all the town buildings,
Yeah.
and then, you know, we'd have another division. We thought it would be Peter's group for a while, but if it can't be, you know, we thought we'd have somebody do the fields, and we'd share the cost, but we haven't been able to kind of get there yet. But you know you need help at the town level, and we need help at the Pembroke level. So we could have put that
We
in.
can figure that out
We
somehow.
could have put that in, but the problem is when we put it in, something else has to come out. We would have had to make probably another staff cut.
Those fields aren't gonna be ready until the fall anyway, right?
They're not gonna be ready till 2018.
Well,
Yeah,
let's think
really
about this for a
ready
minute. They
until
need 3
2018.
growing
Yeah, I think that's
seasons.
probably
Yeah.
true.
So the ones that were planted first, the old fields, they got planted when did they get planted? I think they're supposed to be in the fall of 17.
Really, none of them are in good shape.
Are we taking care of the irrigation system now, or is the contract taking care of the irrigation system?
The contract, we still are.
It's not-
we haven't
they are
taken over.
finished
We
with it
haven't
yet.
taken over all
So
of it.
he's operating that.
Well, I think that's the other thing is right now, that all fall, we don't know what it's gonna take to maintain that property because we weren't responsible for it. The contractor was responsible for it. So we've been happy about that, you know, we didn't have to worry about that. But we've been talking about this, anticipating this for 2 years, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Jim and I have been talking about maintenance for.
Yeah. For a long
15.
time, for a long time.
Long
And I
time.
mean, actually, the town's come a long way. I mean, that's one thing I always say, that we don't tell our story well enough here. Because when I go back 5 years ago to the time we sat in those strategic planning meetings at the Georgetown High School, and I remember it was the Collins Center, it wasn't Kim, it was another guy, and I remember the discussion as to what people said they wanted Georgetown to be. Mike wanted it to be a budget cutting session, and it was all the things that the town really wanted, and it wasn't actually so different than what I heard in the last round of strategic planning that we just finished, which is, I think, a good thing. But there's been a lot of things done that no one talks about, you know, like the funding for the schools was always even more precarious than it is right now. And then the override came, and then for 4 years, that not only did the schools benefit, but the town benefited. And people stopped talking about the constant cutting of services, and that worry went away. We want the seniors. Now they're gonna have a senior center. Infrastructure, you got a beautiful new school, a renovated high school, roofs on your public safety building and your highway, and new on the middle high school.
Well, you know, the other thing is,
all these things got done.
To Sandy's point about other stuff, You know, we have police cars. Remember,
Yeah.
15 years ago, they
Yeah.
had police cars that had 100,000 miles
Yeah,
on
I
them.
know.
The
Well, Don's
seats
done a
would
great job
slide
with it.
around when they stopped.
Highway
It was
trucks
awful.
with frames that were broken. I
So
mean,
So
it
that's what I'm
just,
saying,
it's,
I think that
So-
we have to
done.
we have to celebrate a lot of things that have been done
And,
on a
and
very
all
tight
of the
budget.
people that need it have good equipment, like Peter Durkee
Yeah.
has trucks. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not sure that they had a lot of
police
them.
have
five years
weapons.
ago, we
Yeah.
weren't funding CIP.
I
Yeah.
know, so that's why I
So
think that
things
that
weren't
has
getting
to,
done.
so we just don't wanna go back there again, right? We don't wanna, that's the goal here, we don't, cause last year we started to see, you know, that first $200,000 in our cuts, and then you did what you could, but you gave us 1.6. So that dug a hole, right, cause we built the budget on 2.5, so it, you know,
Yeah.
so that represents, I know you don't like to talk percentages, so I'll talk numbers, that represents probably, you know, another $130,000 to $150,000 that now this year, the budget was that much higher, right? So that, those things dig holes over time, so. But I think the town can be proud of a lot of things that have been
Yeah.
done. But, you know, I know we've got to let people, you know about their jobs, so what we've done is, anybody who's potentially affected
You
by
told them
this,
already.
we've already spoken to them, so that, you know, but when do, just in terms of timeframe, help
End
us
of the
with
month,
that.
I think we have to have this done by the
We
end.
have to have it done by the end of the month, okay,
So one way or the other, we'll know by the end of March.
okay.
I mean, on the flip side, I mean, it could happen that, and it has happened a couple times, not much, but when the state budget comes in, remember, if
Right,
it
it's
comes
gonna be a
in
little bit
higher,
more.
the beautiful thing about having a fall town meeting is we can adjust the budget in the fall.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, it's
and-
hard to hire people in the middle of, you know, for a
Right.
It
teacher,
is,
you
yeah.
can't do that.
Right.
But if we, again, depending on how this works, I mean, if we could look at a maintenance person at that point, that we could do something in a shared way, you know,
If
I
it's-
don't know.
yeah.
If we can.
If we can, I mean, it just,
We just have that, yeah.
Aren't you faced with the fact you're losing teachers, they're
I
not
know.
gonna be there in September.
I know.
You if we do come up with some money in the fall,
You-
you'd rather have the teacher
I
versus the
would.
maintenance.
Yeah, but
person.
this-
Well,
yeah.
well, I
I
mean,
don't know how you do that.
yes, we would, but at the same time, you know, we all have to remember that,
Yeah.
you know, everything can't be,
I know you're contractually
priority.
obligated, you have to.
yeah.
Yeah, when do you have to tell them formally? It's in June sometime, is it?
It's June by law,
Yeah.
but we, you
You
know.
tell 'em
we-
before
yeah,
that.
well, only, I mean, people are looking now, if they've been talked to,
Yeah.
I'm sure they're looking, because you
Yeah,
don't wanna be,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
waiting. I mean, people know that the final decisions are never made until town meeting, for sure, right? But generally speaking, on town meeting floor, a lot doesn't change,
No.
you know.
well, look at it this way, Andover has a $1.7 million difference for the schools.
Below. But won't they just go and defend it on town meeting floor and get their money anyway?
Who knows?
Yeah, cause
Who
that's,
knows?
that's what Andover's known for that, right?
Oh, is that right?
Well, that was
Oh, yeah.
with Claudia Bach, it's a little bit different now.
Okay, with
But,
Shelley, yeah.
but, and that's a
Yeah.
good thing, and that is a good story to tell, because that's what the school department, the school committee has been working so hard, and everyone's worked so hard that we're lucky, I mean, and considering a lot of other communities, we really, for a
Yeah.
small community, we've done pretty damn well.
What's
Right.
the,
Oh, with what we
what's the
have,
enrollment
With
for
what we
students
have,
supposed-
yeah.
What is the enrollment for students supposed to do over in the future? Is that in the
Well, I
plan
think
here?
it's very interesting. I mean, nationally, it's expected to go down. You know, the
I've
senior
heard that. That's what I was
population has
wondering.
been rising. And definitely, we've noticed our enrollment, particularly at the high school. Our elementary seems to continue to be, you know, pretty similar.
Consistent,
Yeah, but the high school definitely, and that's just the product of the aging, I guess. But, yeah, I think that's what's happening with the state formula too, because they're saying, you know, enrollment's predicted to go down. But in Georgetown, what's very interesting is depending on how much new how much new housing you bring in. Like, I look at the school now, we've got 5 classrooms of every grade. Well, we won't if we cut the 4th grade teacher, that person's not on the list. So we'll have one class of 4 and the others of 5. But if you start having these big developments or whatever that come in and they all have school-age children,
Oh, yeah.
they're gonna come to school,
And
right?
it is projected, I heard it was projected to go down.
Yeah.
And I was curious as to what your number.
We haven't seen that at the elementary level as much. And there is a section in here on enrollment. And, I mean, I guess district enrollment has gone down. So you can see actually in Pearly, you can see the big jump because we changed the grade configuration.
Right,
That's what
right.
that's a result of. and then it goes up at Pembroke. But,
This year.
but middle and high school, you can see the numbers are lower.
But it could be an opportunity where if to maintain class size, that we could potentially have the opportunity to go after that maintenance position if we didn't need it in a teaching position.
Right, well, that's the discussion, right, that we have to look at that. And that's, I mean, if you look at the cuts, you probably say the same thing the school committee said, well, there's a disproportionate number of cuts at the middle high school.
Right.
But when we looked at it and said, all right, how many sections do we need? I mean, our goal, and I think you'd support this, our goal was to try not to affect major programs. To say we're cutting the whole Mandarin program. Because we have children who we want to make sure when they go to college they can meet the language requirements, and we want to offer a comprehensive program as much as we can for our kids. Different, regionals have more opportunities for courses, but Georgetown, we offer a nice quality program that has a lot of solid core courses and then some electives, limited, but some. We have not wanted to cut programs across the board wholesale. We have cut over time. We cut the foods program, we cut the shop program back, but we created an engineering for the future, because engineering for the future and STEM is where things need to go. So we're redirecting a lot of resources into the areas that we know are going to be most useful. But we did cut sections of classes. So what we did is we increased the class sizes. That's what we did. So
Okay, that's where we are. We will stay in touch. We'll let you know what we're doing, certainly.
yeah, the 1.6 is still up in the air, is what I heard from Jim. Yeah.
Okay.
But the second grade is in the budget.
It's in the budget right now, yes.
Okay. And so by the end of March, we should know.
Yeah. I mean, we have to send it to legal. It has to be posted, so yeah, we have to.
We have to present
Yeah.
we have to present a balanced
Right.
budget at town meeting.
So will we come back and have another, like,
Sure.
is it just gonna be
Yeah,
an
whatever.
email? This
Yeah.
is what
Yeah.
we have.
So at the end of March, we'll know what's coming back or no?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll know
Yes.
the.
Yeah,
the
well,
numbers.
by the end of March, we'll know where our
It
budget
sounds like
is.
the
Yeah.
worst case scenario, Suzanne,
Right.
is it's our budget
Mm-hmm.
with the second grade teacher back,
Right.
right?
Yes.
It sounds like what Jim is saying, the best case scenario
The 2.0.
may be the one,
2.03
the,
budget
the,
with.
the 2.03, right,
Your
exactly,
budget.
yours, 500. So, and then the best case scenario is what they're saying right now is that it's the 2.03 plus the, plus the second grade
1.6.
teacher and the 1.6 teacher.
I think that's the best.
That's what you're saying.
Okay, so
So
it
there's
would be our
the
top
line,
three.
there's the line
There's
right
the
there.
line, which is what we, okay.
It's kind of what you voted the other night.
Yeah, it's what we
those were-
voted,
yeah.
right.
I mean, you voted a 3.5 million, but.
Monopoly money.
That's right, I kept saying it's play money. All right, well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, thank you for
Yeah.
coming.
Thank you.
Just out of curiosity, I don't know if you know the answer or not, but it looks like since 2011 or so, you've seen this trend of people, or it's like a 20% drop off of students entering high school from what you.
That's
So-
fairly common.
No, but before that, it was pretty stable. It looked
Oh,
like
was
about-
it?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
so
so it's
something-
more vocational kids, and it is more kids going to the private school.
Yeah,
So I think that's, to me, that, when I think about how the population in town has changed, a lot, some of the newer families that have come to town that maybe have some means, when kids get to the high school.
They're gonna send their kids to the private.
Yeah, and
Right,
St.
yeah.
John's Prep has been the sort of biggest, because it's an affordable private, well, as
Semi-affordable.
private schools go, it's affordable.
But I
It's
think the
more-
good thing is it's not that there's school
What's that?
choicing out into
Yeah,
another
no.
public
No,
school.
okay, that's what I
Yeah.
was
Very few
wondering.
are choicing
Very
out
few
to
are
a
choicing
different
out.
Public school, but the others are going to
That's
St. John's,
Okay.
Governors.
Okay.
Field and vocational.
Gary.
Yes.
Vocational.
More
Yeah,
private.
but I think it's
More
more
private.
We're trying really hard.
You mentioned earlier, Jim,
We're trying really hard. to
pulling
educate
some
our
things,
families
paying
that
some
do
things from the
things that were-
stabilization
stuff
fund.
that's-
Yes.
Could you go over them again? Was it
No, no.
Ice, snow and ice.
snow and ice?
Snow and ice, and whatever things that we've pulled out of people's budget, like Carol's 30,000, There was some, I've forgotten,
Where's the
Gary.
fire
There's a
truck?
couple of other things.
Where's the fire truck coming?
The what?
77.
Still need 77 grand.
70, that's the fire truck is gonna come out of
These are
the
really
staff
nice
fund.
assistants.
So you're hitting that.
Yeah.
Most of that.
Now, the snow and ice,
Thank you.
very
we
much.
won't know that till fall.
Seriously about how the budget
No, no,
works.
oh, no, no, we'll know that sooner than that.
Because
You'll
it
have
does-
that?
Oh, yeah.
That was a very.
I mean, right now, it's at 40
Thank you.
going,
50 in the hole right now.
yeah,
And hopefully.
hopefully that's
stand
it.
100.
But
Yeah.
we took that, when we deficit spend, I thought we could take that out of, we have a plan of where we're taking that from.
We paid
Yeah.
off last year's snow and ice.
We
Yes,
straight up.
agreed.
We usually take it out of
Free
free
cash.
cash.
In the fall.
In the fall, that's what I'm getting at, yeah.
Well,
In the fall?
one
Yeah.
year we actually paid
It's
for it in the spring.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this year, unless we get some huge snowstorms, we'll probably do it in the spring. Yeah.
Knuckles.
I mean, we could do it in
only
the
tonight.
fall, I
It's
guess.
still March.
I can do that. Do
You
you
know.
want me to email you?
Well, right now, we're
Information.
working off last year's free cash, and usually when we pay it, we work off the free cash from this year, which we don't get until the fall.
Right.
So that's the way that's.
I don't
so that's
remember
why
that
when
we
you mentioned-
always did snow and ice in the fall.
We make, I think we do it depending upon
Yeah.
where we are.
So perhaps
When the
not.
spirit moves
But we
us.
don't always have a fall town meeting though.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
It's likely,
No,
I would
a
think
few
we
years
should.
ago.
A couple times we have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 years ago, I think. it
Not
was.
that many, maybe, yeah,
Well,
maybe
fine, I said a
two.
couple.
2 years ago, we didn't have it.
Right.
Another question,
Because we had no money.
other available funds, okay,
Because where I,
went from, front page of the one you gave us, went from 75 to 238, okay? 68, is that, where you said you're looking to pull 40 from excise tax?
no, 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 no,
Okay,
no,
so where is
no,
that-
no, no,
Where is that increase coming from?
what was that?
Excise?
No, other available funds on the front page.
Got a $163,000 increase.
The 238 down the bottom of, hold on. I can tell, oh, here it is. Septic betterment, the CPC debt. This isn't anything we've raised up. This, under other available funds, it's 21,000 of septic betterment, 12,000 out of affordable housing trust, and $204,000 from CPC debt service. That's to pay the bond on the turf field. That's another thing like the
Okay.
the override money.
Okay,
It's
so
in and out.
that's, okay, so it's, all
It's
right.
in and out.
And same thing with the Affordable Housing Trust, that goes to pay for the person doing the minutes or
Yeah,
working for the
yeah,
part-time,
yeah. It's
or
in and
the
out
planner
money too. It's
part-time,
money that's
for
already
Howard's
designated.
salary.
Right.
Now, the 4.4 increase on taxes, that's taken into the 2.5 in new growth, I guess? That same area, I'm looking at the.
Yeah. If you look on the other page, yes. It's that's the standard 2.5 new growth.
2.5 is,
Okay,
is 413,000
new growth,
from
160.
last
Right,
year's
okay,
levy
right.
limit.
Okay,
And then 164 is our estimate.
Don't forget, Gary, too, if you look on that second page on the top,
yep,
that the school renovation bonds went up, and the new high school construction bonds kicked in. That's
okay.
probably why it's
Okay,
it's
so that's adding-
4.4.
That's adding to that 4.4.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank
Right,
you.
but that's
You're
that's not real money, when you think about
Well,
it.
it's
because
again, it's in
It's
out.
tax money.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah.
it's,
Oh
It
yeah.
is real money.
it's real money, but it's not like it's money we get to use.
It's not money.
already-
That's right. It's not
Yes,
money we have
that's
Just
access.
to
what
watch it come in and out.
But that's explaining the 4.4
Yeah.
to me. is
Yeah.
what
Yeah,
you said.
yeah.
That's, okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Right, so if you, exactly, I mean, it's just, it's,
Okay. Any thoughts?
well, this sucks.
What's the plan?
Punt.
Plan? No, Mike has some
Is there a
things he
plan?
has to
What's your
do
plan?
for insurance. There's some other stuff floating around out there. So a lot of it has to do with talking with the school department and the unions and Carol and
Well, it's unions, and it's a teachers' union. they
teacher's
have
is the
veto
biggest.
authority
Right.
over any changes
Right,
in
right.
health insurance.
Right. And they wouldn't do this, he's proposing, or going to propose to them. They wouldn't do it a few years ago, so, I mean, we're not.
Which is
It's
Plan?
Plan design.
increasing,
Plan design.
it's increasing deductibles.
It would, to get this reduction in the increase.
Right.
Cheaper monthlies, but higher.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, the rates would go, right now, they're at 8.5% increase. They could go down to 1.5% increase. So there's that opportunity cost for the employees.
Right.
They'll get to keep 7% of 40%. It's not a, but you know, when you're
It's
talking
still-
about $2.2 million, it adds
It's a lot
up.
of money, yeah, yeah.
But if they invoke the 32B, we have to give them 25% of the savings. So, and it was only about.
That's right. I mean, no,
What is that?
then we get it next year. I mean, you know, it's
Yeah.
it's like
but-
TIF.
But
TIF financing.
They have to
It's-
agree not to invoke 32B,
Oh, okay.
and the likelihood of that.
Why do they have to agree to do that? It's just we don't want them
It's
to.
the
Or,
law. If we change the plan,
yeah.
That's the law.
then we have to go through this state process,
Okay.
which we went through last time, but it took 6 months to do.
Okay. So we won't get the benefit this year.
Right, they'd have to meet, I'd give them the numbers, and they'd have to agree at that meeting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, within the next
Couple of weeks.
2-3 weeks.
Yeah, yeah. So it's not likely to happen.
It's possible, but not probable.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what's really unfortunate, and it was very evident again tonight, that the school teachers and the school committee has no concept of how this budget works.
Yeah.
Can we put together perhaps Budget 101 or Budget for Dummies to teach them how these numbers come about?
I think it's everybody. I think the whole town needs to.
I think it's a lot. I mean, it's just, but I mean, but to Pam's point, I mean, a lot of it is still, people don't get it. And I don't think they understand, like I say, that, yeah, you're seeing, Gary, a 4.4% increase in revenue.
But it's not.
But it's really not.
No, it isn't. Yeah. No.
You know, when you look at the bottom line number on the front here, and it's 4.8, I mean, I don't think a lot of people truly understand how this whole thing works.
It is that
No.
increase, but that increase is not in the budget that we're working with.
That's right.
But-
It's in fixed costs.
It's in fixed costs, and that's what I'm saying, is that's what a lot of people don't understand, is that you have the revenue, you gotta take off the bottom, your fixed costs, and that's what you got left over for an increase. And we did a couple of years ago, and it's usually under 1.5%.
And that,
So if your costs go up over 1.5%, you're never gonna have a sustainable
right,
budget.
because of your fixed costs, because of the things as insurance that you have no control over. So yes, what you're saying, you've got a fixed increase of 2.5% basically every year. We should be trying to work with a budget, you just said the number, 1.5 is what
That's
we should
right.
be trying to work with because of the other
That's
fixed
right.
costs of insurance and other things that we have
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Energy, I mean, look at the energy on the new school. I mean, I don't know where that's working out into this whole budget.
No, it's in there.
You know, so
It's in there. That's another reason why
Yeah, that's-
we're in the hole. Yeah.
So we need to basically be looking at average budgets of 1.5.
And we said that years ago, and I don't know if people really fully grasped it. And that's, you know, maybe.
We're agreeing, Sandy.
If you get that on
Really?
tape.
Wow.
That's a wow.
So
He's
is-
right.
So I guess, Mike, is there something that we could put together for the FinCom book, Budget 101, of, you know, where these numbers, how these numbers arrive? Because when somebody does look at the number, and they're gonna look at the front page, and they're gonna say, I don't understand, you're getting 4.8% increase in your revenue.
Yeah.
They gotta have an
Why?
understanding of But revenue, yes, but they are have an understanding of the fixed costs.
That's what I'm saying, it's
And
just,
they need, the insurance, the retirement,
right.
I don't-
list them.
I think
debt.
it's too complicated for.
Well, I'm saying, you've got the
For a
your
simple
revenue
one.
equals A plus B plus C equals your total revenue. Then off the top, you take off D, E, F, which is equals your fixed cost, and then you have your bottom line budget. For example, just do it basically on paychecks. Your take-home pay. Your salary. Someone makes $100,000 salary. They're not taking home $100,000.
And they're not
Oh, right.
and they're costing more than the $100,000 when you tack on all the other costs.
That's what I'm saying. So I think maybe if we
That's
try to do something very, I'll put something down on draft, but
Go ahead.
something
Yeah,
simple
we'll
to sit
see,
there
yeah.
and to
Put it
say.
in the book.
Huh? And say, this is, because I think that's what a lot of people really fail to understand. It's the fixed costs. And yes, we're putting in the debt. That's great, we're raising the money, but we're raising the money to pay for something.
Well, actually,
I think it's a really good idea, but let's step back. I mean, from what Joe said, he kept asking us to look at all these people, right? They're not looking at it from a number standpoint, guys. They're looking at it from the fact that one of them are going to lose their job.
Right.
They don't care what the numbers are. They're really begging for their jobs. Okay, so whether the numbers make sense or not, even if you had something, Finance 101 here, they're not going to care.
Well,
these people.
I think she's
striving
saying
their
as much
jobs.
for the taxpayers.
It's for
No,
the
but what I'm
tax
saying is, I
education,
understand that, but whether, of course, they don't get it. We could have sat here for 3 hours
Right.
and explained it. All they really look for right now is how can they save their jobs. So it might have been probably the wrong setting, to teach them that. But yeah, we could have easily said, guys, it's black and white. When it's not fantasy land. It's here's the number. This is what we have to work with. We can't go out. We're not going to dig up a hole where there's $2 million in it. It just is what it is, and they're trying to save their jobs, and we have to just remember that.
I know, I understand, but the other thing is, in the population numbers of the schools, since 2005 to 2015, there's 250 less students in this system.
Aside from the graduating class of 18 and 20, those are the two high points. We're going to actually see a tail off in the next 7-8 years after that.
It's supposed to go down.
A couple of, you're talking about a couple jobs right now, but the classroom sizes actually will start to decrease over the course
in order to
not
maintain the
increase.
same.
They generally, and actually, I think one of those teachers, they really, quite frankly, don't need the teacher because the
Right,
classes.
so should we be putting them back in the budget though, if they really?
Well, we're
don't
not
need
putting
them?
that one back in the budget. Not putting that one back.
But Joe, to your point, I'll be perfectly honest, I feel kind of insulted that the union or people or teachers think that we don't care about people losing their jobs. We do. And we have done that for years. That is one of the first things, going way back to 2002 when the first crap hit the fan. The first question we'd ask every beginning of budget season, how can we make sure that nobody is losing their job? Has always been
That's even
our first.
now. I mean, you really
Always.
don't want to have people.
We
But,
don't want to.
I
But
don't know
we also have the responsibility to make sure those that have a job keep it. And if we're protecting 100% of the jobs, we're going to fail.
No, I don't think. No, we're not saying that.
You can't win by never ever having anybody lose a job.
No, we're not saying that.
But it is absolutely always has been very top of the line in consideration.
No, it should be, and I'm sure it has been, but we have to be looking at the whole. We have to look at the whole town, not just.
And that's why town halls close one day a week. That's why people's hours are reduced. That's why people didn't lose jobs. They may have lost hours. Huh?
There's other people to cut it.
Exactly.
That's just it.
You can't cut a police officer.
Well, that's the problem. The other departments are so small.
There's like,
that you
one
really
person
can't.
departments.
Continue. I thought it was a good point that we even have volunteer firefighters. I mean,
That's it.
These
That's a
aren't things
moving train
that.
going down.
Yeah.
But Sandy said
Sure.
that. That's where it is now. But again, they don't want to hear that.
Right, and like I said, and I think that's where do we need to provide a little bit better education as to what this is about.
One second.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just with the coaches, it's $175,000 a year. Is that not something that could be a volunteer position? I mean, I don't have a. It's a lot of money.
No,
Generally,
I
they
It's a
don't.
union
No.
thing.
That's a union thing too.
The coaches.
No, I
I
don't.
think they're all by like stipend and.
Yeah.
But that actually, they take in, I think it's $86,000 or $68,000 on the budget to make up the shortfall for the sports program.
But when you say volunteer, you're gonna leave work early every Tuesday and Thursday to coach a team?
I
mean,
I do,
that's the
so
thing.
that's why I kind of look at it like that.
Well, but that, all right, so that's you,
Yeah.
you know, good for you. I mean, there's a lot of people, I couldn't.
Yeah, no, I know.
You know,
I mean, that's why.
If you're looking for volunteers, that means they're gonna
Yeah,
have to leave work
the
and-
thing is that in a
the same thing.
in a situation you can't depend on volunteers.
No,
Yeah.
not for that.
So you have to have people do it.
Okay, I'd like to make a brief statement on the insurance thing that Mike's been talking about possibly getting it down. You have to get the Board of Selectmen to agree on that. And we did that earlier. The only way I agreed was we'd take some of that money and we put it into the other post-employment benefits. Have I got that right? What we call that? Well, we're cutting to save some money. And the selectmen agreed to that. Finance committee didn't. So I don't know that I would agree to cut people's benefits just to put it back into the budget. I thought that we could put some of it into other post-employment benefits, which helps to go to, I don't know what it's supposed to do, but if someone could explain it better, what it's supposed to do, but it's supposed to fund in case of shortfalls, I guess, that we hope we never get to.
You know, it's supposed to be funding their medical, your town's portion of an employee's retirement insurance.
Agreed.
After, you work for 30 years and then you retire and the town's responsible for their share of their medical insurance, that's what that liability is.
I understand all that.
Really, in the way to look at it better is that any new employee right now that goes to work in the town of Jersey, no matter where they are, they should be the town should be putting aside that person's funds for them 30 years from now. And then the whole problem will go away. We don't do that. Even
that's what I said. If we had a savings where we could have put it in the budget.
It's a large amount of money, Gary.
We
It's a
didn't
huge
do
amount.
it.
But
So
you know,
I don't know that I would agree to do it this year if we're just gonna take that savings and put it in the budget and not put, I'm not saying I didn't want the whole amount put in there, but I wanted some of that savings to go towards that. It didn't happen.
I think that whole thing is a red herring. I mean, I really do.
Yeah.
20 years ago, somebody could have said that we are self-funding it. We're funding it right now.
Yeah, well,
I don't get that whole post-employment benefits
I
thing.
think it's basically, if the town went under, it's there.
You're right, Gary.
If the town went under,
would
it's
have to
there.
cease to exist.
Yeah.
And all that money would now become due.
I agree. From the town's point side, I can
We're
see
not
it.
going anywhere.
But they're not.
Yeah,
Right. We gotta fund it.
I've said this ever since it first came out. It's a Accountants Full Employment Act.
Yeah, I think so too.
But we are told we're
The
supposed to
accounting
do it.
board actually invented this.
Yeah.
You know, and you have to hire consultants who are accountants to figure it out each year. It is. It's a racket.
And then you hire another accountant to audit it every year, and he tells them what they did wrong.
Yeah, aren't we talking? I mean, we're talking about cutting teachers here. I mean,
vicious.
that's something that is, like everyone says, that's a what if, and then this happens. I mean, we're talking about real jobs here that we're trying to cut. I think we have a lot more needs now than we could all
No, you're assuming it's gonna go.
buried in a year.
We need to understand whether it needs to be there or not. We were told we have to start funding it.
We would.
And
I don't think there's any requirement for us to
There's no
fund it.
requirement.
No.
I would.
Well, that's not the way it's been told.
We should talk more about that because I do disagree with you about that.
We were supposed to have it funded. You had to start doing it by a certain date, and from what I understand, they kept kicking back the date.
Didn't you have to have a trust set up by a certain date?
No, you don't even
have to do that. We had somebody tell us what we should be doing, and we did that, and we ignored it because we should.
Don't we have to hire somebody to do that every 2 years for us?
We do.
Yeah, that's they're only spending on that.
No,
But it's
We
true.
found somebody.
7,500.
Yeah.
The revenue producing departments have to fund it by law.
Yeah.
The light department has one.
Well, that's just as
Yeah.
crazy,
It's
but
like-
anyway.
It's a
It was
ridiculous
explained to
amount of
me-
money.
It was explained to me, we also have to, at some point, do it, but they kept kicking it down the road.
That's right. The only time it's gonna become an issue with the town is if you haven't funded it, and then communities, and this hasn't happened, there's communities that have got money set aside, you are gonna look different in
Yeah.
a bonding situation than these communities that, but nobody in the state's doing
Well,
it.
there's
Well,
also a question.
Wellesley
if you
did,
put it
but
in, you fill
that
it up.
still
At what
amazes
point can you
me. They
take out?
borrowed the money.
So,
They borrowed the money to put it in?
Yeah,
They borrowed
yeah.
it, they put it in there. and then now they're still short.
Yeah.
Right, because a year went by, and 2 years went by, and 3 years.
Then put it
Can
in
I have
Right.
one question? So, who, if you don't mind me asking, Gary, who, you keep saying, you know, I was told. Who actually told you if we have Mike here who is disagreeing with me? I'm not
no,
understanding.
it's been put forward to the Board of Selectmen when it first came out that we were supposed to start an account, which we did, and that we had to start funding it, and you were supposed to, you was supposed, I don't know what the date was, if we ever had a date where it had to be fully funded. But is it Powers of Sullivan? I mean, we talk about it several
I
times.
think, wasn't it at one point, people were saying that at some point it was gonna be a GASB requirement. And
That might
I
be
just
a
had the
term.
feeling that a lot of people pushed back and said, you know, don't get real, we're not gonna do that.
Well, if that's the way.
So,
it
in
needs
fact,
to
there
be,
was
then
an op-ed piece in the Globe about a year ago about that same thing. You know, this was a phantom need.
As you said, Jim, maybe we just need to talk about it.
Yeah, I think we
And
do
better
need to talk
understand
about it again to understand
If it's
it
something we're
better.
supposed to be funding, because we're told we have to. we
Yeah,
should
I
be.
don't.
We're not required to fund it.
It's not a GASB requirement right now, and I'm not aware that it's planned to be anymore. But
On another note, a couple of things. The legal fund, Mike, do we have enough money going into next year? Are we expecting any increases in any lawsuits that you see on the horizon to make sure we've got nothing on that end? Okay.
We have an increase in lawsuits, but they're being covered by
liability.
Because remember one year we
liability
remember.
insurance.
Yeah,
one year we had-
our
yeah.
legal's been under pretty
It's
good.
been doing well.
No, but I remember years ago, all of a
Oh,
sudden a bunch
yeah.
of stuff came up and we just went totally
Yeah,
null. Because our reserve fund is right now, what are we funding it this year? Under 100?
96,
Yeah,
Nice.
so that's,
That's an odd amount.
isn't it? I don't know.
I'm just thinking as we're going into this
Yeah.
process, if there's anything that, because remember one year we funded it more just to make sure we had that balance to cover
Oh.
in case there were any
That-
issues.
Yeah.
Well, that was for,
That year we put a lot of money. That was for
That was with the other,
unemployment.
no, right, and I just wanna make sure that we're taking into consideration as we're,
Mike seems to think that's fine.
okay. Just,
we haven't, we've been at historic lows for unemployment.
Unemployment. Yeah.
We've
well,
been-
that's, what is this
Because-
potential gonna do?
Well,
Us?
That's what we have to.
I
You gotta figure-
have to find out
She
how
has to
many
talk. He has to talk
people
to
that are
Carol
laying
about that.
off.
So we don't, that's not factored into that 84,000 yet.
It's
No,
100 at,
no.
It's 100.
Yeah, we're probably, I don't think we're gonna spend 50 this year. We've been averaging 2 to 3 to 4,000 a month.
To the
And-
50
and
for
what's-
FY16.
Yes.
Okay, but we don't know what FY17 is
but-
gonna be.
But what was killing us in the past was the 90, I think I mentioned this, the 99 weeks
yeah.
Yeah.
of benefits. They don't
That's
have
gone
that
away.
anymore.
Right, okay.
You know, the amount of benefit went up. It's up over 700 a week now. Used to be 660.
You hope that people will find a job. You know.
Well, maybe they might.
Yeah, it's just, I just wanna make sure all these other little costs as we're
Mhm.
trying, do some other things that we're covering ourselves for next fiscal year. Now, obviously, if we have a fall time meeting, there's extra free cash, we can move that into there, into the reserve, and if we think there's gonna be any issues.
Yeah, we
I
can
think
do that.
that's a good.
We will know by September, I would bet, if people do get laid off, if
Just
they start
one-
collecting.
Make sure I put
Then
up,
then we
Yeah,
can do that.
we should fund the reserves back
Yeah.
for
yeah,
what,
this
for
is
that.
for all of you
Well,
guys.
you put it in
because
the
we
unemployment
won't
or
be
put it
here.
in reserves.
Where are you
So,
going?
Yeah,
I forgot.
yeah, yeah.
Does the free cash have to be zeroed out at the end of the year?
Oh, no,
No.
do whatever we want with it.
want to do that. you always wanna have something in free cash,
How much is in free cash after we use the 300?
24,000.
So there's nothing left.
And it would have an effect on our financial, well, until we go out to bond again, but if we had $24,000 in free cash, we'd be, you know, losing our bond rating, the AA bond rating.
How much do you have to
There's no magic number, but
That's how it
Not
feels.
24.
needs to be way above,
24.
you know,
But if we're
six
ahead by,
figures.
if we're ahead by 84 now, why wouldn't that go back into free cash then, instead of trying to put programs back in that they're prepared to cut?
I don't think it's programs, I think it's a teacher, isn't it? You're prepared to put back in.
I haven't read it completely yet, I just was looking at it, but it looked like they were maintaining class size with the reduction in teachers. Am I reading that right in there?
One of them, the fourth grade teacher, I think,
Both of
yes,
them
that's
said that.
true.
They said the same thing. They both said they'd maintain a class size.
Well,
of
yeah,
24.
no, the class size in the second grade would have gone up. That was her first choice. She
No,
was
he's
trying to
talking about the
avoid
next two.
increasing the class size and if she had to, she would have, but she
But
didn't want
if,
to.
If the student count is going down, then they should be,
It's,
if you want to maintain,
it's not going down in the grammar school. It's going down in the high school.
I guess overall, if the student count's going down and your teachers are staying the same, then your class size is going down. If you're going to maintain class size, then the amount of teachers should go down. And if the teachers should be going down, then why wouldn't we let that happen, despite the fact that it is a person's job, and I appreciate that, because I've been laid off too. But if it's supposed to go down, why don't we let it go down and not take that money and just artificially keep it up and have class sizes getting smaller?
No, I don't disagree with that. It's just...
I think, as I said, everything is still open for discussion for the
Right.
next
Yeah.
few weeks for,
Right.
It's maybe worth, having the bite to pull it now instead of just continually pushing it off and then having, very, very small class sizes and saying, whoa, what do we get here?
when is,
I agree.
when are the long?
They just pulled my heartstrings.
Long-
So,
don't have no choice.
Should be now.
Are we going,
Yeah, my
we're
wife's
gonna
teacher.
do this next
No,
last
my
one.
daughter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I think, are we done?
When's the next meeting?
Yeah.
Next
Wednesday.
Wednesday, we're gonna do, is the
We're doing the warrant.
warrant in good shape?
Yeah, there's not much to it.
Well, let's do the warrant next Wednesday, and then we'll see where we are after that.
It's pretty much,
Pretty empty?
yeah, there's nothing really new in it.
Well, if I may, you've got that thing from Lydia, if perhaps we could get
Yeah, you're gonna have to
somebody who
talk
can answer
about-
us on that, whether that's gonna be an increase in down the road, may not be this year, but down the road it may be.
Yeah, I'll find out by Monday night, Gary. I'll talk to their business manager.
Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.